Reporters here in New York. Welcome everyone to Alex Witt Reports. We have some breaking news to tell you about. It is relative to Iran and an attack on an Israeli-linked oil tanker. Let's go right to Josh Lederman, who's standing by at the White House. Josh, what do you know about this?
Well, Alex, Israel had already accused Iran of being behind this attack using drones on an oil tanker that was managed by an Israeli company. They had said they believed that was the reason behind that attack, which actually killed 2 people aboard that vessel. And now we have both the United Kingdom and the United States government saying they, too, believe that Iran was behind that attack. Secretary of State Tony Blinken saying in a statement just moments ago that upon review of the available information, we are confident Iran conducted this attack, which killed 2 innocent people, using one-way explosive, unarmed, unmanned aerial vehicles. They say a lethal capability that is increasingly being employed throughout the region. Secretary Blinken also going on to suggest that there will be some type of a U.S. response to that, saying that the response to that will be appropriate and will be forthcoming. And we know that this has taken place amid a tit-for-tat escalation of tensions at sea between Iran and Israel, with a growing number of these kinds of incidents in recent weeks. But it also comes as the U.S. is in these stalled nuclear negotiations with Iran about getting back to the Iran nuclear deal that Trump pulled out of. Both the U.S. and Iran want to get towards reuniting under that agreement, but have not been able to do so. And now with these escalating tensions that we've been seeing, there is increasing pessimism that the U.S. and Iran will be able to actually broker some deal to get back to that agreement, particularly as you now have the U.S. out publicly saying that based on their intelligence, they believe Iran was behind this deadly attack on that Israeli-linked vessel, Alex.
Okay, so Josh, I just want to go over the where this happened. It was the North Arabian Sea, right? Are we certain that this was in international waters? And also this ship, what kind of a ship was it? I mean, do we know what it was transporting? Because it seems to be a commercial ship.
That's right. It was a commercial ship. It's an oil tanker, so one of these really large ships that goes extremely long distances. I believe it was a Japanese-owned ship, but that the management company that was responsible for it is an Israeli company. It was associated with that company. Israeli intelligence officials have been saying they believe that's the reason that it was targeted.
Okay. When you go, you say these UAVs, these one-way explosive UAVs, so that are these just kind of drones, correct? I mean, and do we know where they would be launched from, where nearby they could be launched from that would be Iranian land, Iranian property? I mean, so that's where they'd come from?
Well, we don't exactly know where it was launched from, but we know that U.S. military and intelligence officials have been trying to answer that very question. What they've been trying to do, Alex, is essentially see, is this the kind of drone that you could essentially buy off the shelf and load it up, makeshift with some type of explosives, and then crash it into a ship, in which case it would be very hard to figure out who would be behind that? Or is this more of a military style, more like the drones that the U.S. government has, and frankly that the Iranian government is known to have, that is much larger, much more powerful? If they were able to figure out that it was that kind of a drone, that would point much more clearly towards Iran, because fewer other militaries would have that type of capability. And as far as where it could be launched from, you know, in addition to Iranian territory, there's also speculation that could potentially be launched from Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen, where the Iranians are very active through their allies and their groups that they're associated with.
So, Antony Blinken, considering response, what would be an appropriate response to an attack like this?
Well, certainly sanctions is something the U.S. has frequently turned to in this circumstance before, although, you know, it's sort of difficult at this point to figure out where is left for the U.S. to sanction Iran, given the massive array of sanctions that are already in place on their nuclear program, on their ballistic missiles program, as well as on the IRGC, the Iranian elite paramilitary force. But that is one option. The U.S. could also try to step up enforcement, maritime enforcement at sea, try to make sure that they are protecting these other vessels, particularly when they're in these sensitive areas that are known to have an active role for the Iranian Navy.
I got to tell you, it's not often that we hear from Antony Blinken issuing this kind of a robust statement on a Sunday afternoon. It seems pretty unusual.
It does, and it was fairly quickly after this incident. Was only a few days ago for the U.S. to be able to go through that intelligence and then come out. The U.S. does not start attributing attacks like this to foreign nations unless they're pretty darn sure and feel like they can back that up with intelligence. And the fact, Alex, that you're seeing not only the U.S. government come out and do this, but doing it in concert with our closest ally, the U.K., as well as with Israeli officials, means that there is now a pretty broad international consensus among the Western nations that Iran not only was behind this, but that it needs to be punished, that there needs to be measures from the rest of the international community to make sure that Iran does not take these kinds of increasingly aggressive actions in the maritime space.
Okay, Josh Lederman at the White House with the very latest on this breaking news development. Thank you so much, Josh, for that.